Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Supercast. With me today is Ray. How are you doing today, sir?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. So, let's get this show started right off the bat. Your story, how do you view it in, let's say, 5 years from now?
Well, I'm hoping that it won't whittle into a whimper, but like burst into a bang. Basically, I'm hoping that with enough exposure and enough people really getting behind this work and really getting the feel of it rather than just, most works that are done today that, it's all simplistic with explosions and tits and whatnot. I'm hoping that that story and substance will rule the world. Basically, people will find themselves looking at creative media as something, as a medium that can really raise awareness on certain issues and not do it in a way that's like, the likes of 4chan or whatever, those despicable, horrid pieces of garbage out there.
Yeah.
Because, Zeratopoulos has a lot of, deals with a lot of heavy themes. Like, for example, the four main characters are preteens and they preteen boys, and they deal with being dropped into this situation where they have to fight for people that are inside this ivory tower and conjuring illusions, the physical manifestations of their beliefs and their dreams and everything like that. And it's like they're, like with superheroes, how like they're say, defending the innocents against the forces of evil. Well, in this story, the innocents are the ones that are creating the evil for the quote unquote heroes to fight.
Yeah.
So, as opposed to just having like heroes, villains, and whatnot, it's more people existing, and it's more of like people, like life, because the way I look at things, real life is a battle. So it's not like it isn't, and most people would see it maybe in terms of like Marvel and whatnot, or rather, people tend to separate. They tend to be very bipolar when it comes to like one extreme or another. They're very dichotomous. But
Yeah.
me, I look at I'm a middle ground guy, and I look at the two sides. They're just gnawing and clawing and whatnot, and they're touting their own strengths, but they're bitching about their opponent's weaknesses.
Hmm.
They're not taking their own weaknesses into account. They live with this facade of perfection, and it's unattainable. It doesn't exist. Even in fiction, it just like ruins a lot of things. Even like down to the way that characters are designed. Like most mainstream comics, they have this body of a Greek god when realistically most people on the street really don't. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that are muscular and things like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is in comics, you don't find people that are of all shapes and sizes. I mean, nowadays you can argue that, but for the most part, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely touched base on something that I'm fully aware of. You see, certain artists, if you take a look at their work, if you take a look at their work and remove the coloring, you notice the anatomy tends to look similar to the other person's anatomy. So it's like, hey, my arm looks like your arm without color, and my back looks exactly like your back, no difference.
Right.
All right, so
Yeah,
let's touch base on something else.
sure.
What I want to know is if you, let's see here, is it 1 week away or 2 weeks away that a certain event is gonna happen, and that event being Anime Boston.
Yep, that is correct.
What's gonna be your cosplay lineup for this one, brother?
Well, dude, Jack, all those things. Pretty much going to go as old school ECW, second run WCW Raven,
Okay.
the grunge era. I
Nice.
was going to go as King from One Punch Man, but unfortunately, um, I'm probably going to save that for Otakon because I got to work on losing a little bit of weight, and I got to kind of build a kind of a wardrobe for that.
Yeah.
I pretty much have I got a an old school Game Boy Dub Brick, so I've got that, and I just need to do some other things with it. But I've basically been going as Raven since Kineticon 2014, and it's pretty much been the only one I've pretty much done because I feel like if I were to do anything else, I really would just be, well, like everybody else. It's kind of like that episode of South Park when it's a very old episode. I think it was a Halloween episode when there were every kid in the classroom had a Chewbacca mask,
Yeah.
and Stan was Raggedy Andy, and Cartman dressed up as Adolf Hitler, and he made the comment, "Well, I guess my costume's pretty kick-ass,"
Hmm.
in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way because everybody was had a Chewbacca mask. And I think Mr. Garrison dressed up as Marilyn Monroe, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh boy.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
something like
the
that.
things that show can get away with.
Yeah, but like relating to the actual cons, I mean, most people they want to take advantage of what the popular shows are and trends and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
last year I saw like quite a bit of Overwatch and stuff like that, and Rick and Morty among other things.
Uh-huh.
And like the couple of years before that, it was Attack on Titan, and then it was like Sword Art Online, and so on and so forth. And I don't. And what really sucks is that most people like the only wrestler cosplayers or cosplays that I do see is like Roddy Piper or Macho Man. Maybe sometimes like a Hulk Hogan. There was a girl that was dressed as Hulk Hogan at Rhode Island Comic Con, and there was actually a Shinsuke Nakamura at AAC one year,
Oh, really?
and yeah, yeah,
Well, that's good. It's good to see
and
some variety.
that's yeah, and I have no problem with people can do whatever they want, but I'm just saying in terms of like uniqueness, I want to represent like those who don't really get much representation.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping that I do a good job in that regard. I mean, some people have commented, and actually, one person who cosplayed as like Dean Ambrose one year, and he even had the Intercontinental title. Like I actually got to hold it outside the Radisson.
Yeah.
He was a cool dude, and
I think for me, my favorite moment with wrestling cosplayers was probably last year or the year before, where there was these NWO cosplayers, and we played Munchkin.
Mm.
It was great.
What is Munchkin?
Uh, it's it's basically a spoof on Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like
Okay,
your goal is to become like level 10 and sometimes level 20 if you play Epic.
okay,
And the wacky thing about it is that you don't have to be a team player. You can be kind of a dick if you want to.
hmm.
So you
Okay,
have all these cards and stuff, and if someone, it's basically everyone is out for themselves, but if you're an elf, you want to help everyone because as long as you're an elf, you always go up in level. You could be like,
yeah,
"Oh, I can help you." You draw a card, and if it's a monster card, it'll say, if it chases you or not. You try to beat it and then gain its treasure. With the treasure, you can buy better armor and equip yourself. Uh,
Okay.
you can also sell treasure to gain up a level. The only time that you can't sell uh, stuff to gain up a level is when there's only one level left for you to win the game.
I see.
And the artwork is pretty hilarious.
Hmm.
All right, so
Nice.
we're almost running out of time, so I just want to ask you one last question.
Yeah, what's up?
A website that you would like to give props to before we get going.
I don't know. I mean, hardcoregaming101.net,
That's a
you
good
know.
one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that is. Um, I don't know. I'm not really like active on that kind of scene. I'm really trying to, improve for myself. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's pretty much all I can think of because
All right.
usually I look up stuff, and that's kind of how I learned about, like Holy Diver on Famicom and just reading up on, other games and things like that. So
Yeah, though, that's good stuff.
I've
It's
also,
a good research
yeah,
site.
definitely, and I back to Kickstarter, Wrestling with Pixels. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have not, but I'll
Basically,
look into it.
yeah, basically what they do is they go through like all the wrestling video games throughout time, and they do like blurbs about it, and they also have interviews with like developers of said games and even wrestling personalities, like bookers and like people like the higher ups and wrestlers themselves. So
Yeah.
last I checked, they were almost done with it. So I put in $10, so I'm waiting for my PDF for that.
All right. Cool. And with that note, we're going to bring it into this podcast. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Take care.